Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Welcome back, St. Vincent and the Grenadines to Activated Mornings. You're listening to Ari, and with me in studio is Roleza.
I was just going to tell you, slow it down so people could understand.
Roleza in Activated Morning here on 99.9.
All right, Barry.
You're listening to Ari, and
All
with
right,
me
Barry.
is Roleza.
Barry.
We will be bringing to you Barry White, Barry Black. Which one of the Barry? Is it Barry, Barry L? Is it Oriel? Barry?
Could you stop?
Could I stop water, Lisa? This is my normal talking voice. This is how I bring the news every day at 9:55. Let me stop playing around.
Morning,
Welcome back,
Rajiv.
everybody. Morning, Rajiv. Rajiv, can I hear you now? Well, welcome back to Activated Morning. Good morning, Rajiv. Welcome back to Activated Morning this morning. If you're just joining us, we were just discussing. It was a very in-depth conversation. How do we summarize what we're discussing?
Beating people into
Situation.
confession.
Part of the discussions
things.
were having stigmas or labels stick with you, although you might be innocent of the charges. And someone asked, do you think Donald Trump should be forgiven for his rape or sexual assault on females? You know, it's always interesting to me that when there's a discourse or when it is that you get into a lengthy discussion, that some things can be misheard or misunderstood and then present questions like this. Do you think Donald Trump should be forgiven for his rape or sexual assault on females? I don't think anyone thinks anybody should be forgiven for committing these acts or actually committing these acts.
Okay, so my response to that question, though, would be, has he been found guilty of it? Has he also accepted that he may have done the act? The difference with Chris Brown is that we know that he was found guilty of it, and he has also acknowledged what he did. So that for me is where the difference is, right?
Yeah.
So am I going to forgive a man who is insisting that he's not guilty or has not been found guilty of it? Then the answer to that question would be no, right? The difference with Chris Brown is that he at least acknowledged what he did was wrong.
Yeah, but then we do not know if Donald Trump actually raped or committed these acts.
And because he hasn't been found guilty either.
Yeah,
right.
We don't, which is how we don't know.
Right,
we don't know. There's no video evidence, there's no recording, there's no audio evidence there. I haven't seen anything to convince me that Donald Trump did these things. If they exist, he could send them to 4579997 because I've never seen it personally. But what I do believe is, I'm one of those people that listen to Candace Owens sometimes. And I do, you see,
She's
you
an
have
interesting
a
person,
mixed reaction to that.
Yeah.
But I do understand her point of view, because I have in the US, I have had conversations with different people, and not the ignorant or arrogant people that you would see on the media claiming support for Trump without any evidence to back it up. I do also could tell when there's a narrative being pushed forward. And what Candace Owens has been saying is she doesn't understand how Trump has been the face of business for 30 plus years, for decades. He has been a friend to all. He's been a celebrity icon. He has been mentioned in rap songs. He's been posed with rappers or different distinguished persons of color. Then all of a sudden, when he runs for president, he's immediately racist. He's immediately all these things. So why didn't we even hear whispers of this before?
But it's the words coming directly from his mouth. You know, it's things that he actually says, and the arrogance to go with it.
Now, in a lot of these things that we see in the press, can you say that you sat down and listened to everything that he said to give it the proper context?
Well, to be fair, when I hear some things, I tune out. I don't like arrogance.
You see?
I don't like arrogance.
You see, and that's usually how things happen. And look, we see it here at WEFM, where we would say certain things, and then you would see a little twist to it, and it happens. So then, remember, when you see a little clip, does not. But
you know the other side, and Trump is not even supposed to be the topic of discussion for this segment, but we're talking about parts of it in any event, right? Is it a case where his true nature came out when he ran for presidency because of the fact that he had support, right? Because when you're in the business world, you tend to be a bit more mindful of what you do and what you say, because you do not want to sideline persons, right? But given that he was running for president, is it because his true nature was allowed to show? Because now he's on top, right? He's on top. He knows that he has the support of certain persons who may have, over the years, wanted to stay in the background because they did not feel as if they had a voice representing who they were.
And that is a fair analysis. But let me tell you this. I was in Manhattan and I had met a Latino. And we were having a discussion. And he said, you know what's controversial? I support Donald Trump. I asked, okay, why is it that you support Donald Trump? And he said, when I sat down and I listened to what he was proposing, I liked what he was proposing much better than what Hillary was proposing. And when I go to, well, he didn't say he goes to rallies. He said when he listens everything in depth and then he sees what is portrayed in the media, he now is skeptical. No, both sides do it, right and left wing do it. Where the way that they structure certain things and put out certain information, it's to benefit either side. So you would hear Fox News saying things that are not true. Then you would hear the other side just shaping some things to go in a certain direction, in a more liberal way. Now, conservative people, they won't accept certain things. So like we would consider ourselves liberal, but we won't accept certain things to be the norm in like the LGBTQ community. And that does not mean that we hate them. But if it is that we were to say this on a platform in one of these other countries, it would turn into we hate them. So it's a very slippery slope. Now, I not American, I never voted. Both here are in St. Vincent. Both they are in St. Vincent.
We're working on that for next year.
But I do think it's always interesting how public perception sways and how it is that the same selective outrage that we have here, it's the same all over the world. And we have to admit that the media does push persons in a certain direction. They help cover up certain things and they do shed light on certain things. That's why I prefer Al Jazeera.
Okay.
So like when this Ukraine-Israel thing happened, Al Jazeera was the perfect source of unbiased reports as opposed to American or UK.
CNN, right.
Because then you then come to understand how much power the Jewish people do have in media in the United States and why it is that
don't they own most of them, the big corporations? Yeah. All right.
Yes, they do. No. Yes, they do. So someone said, boy, this wasn't even the topic of that. Someone said, not a fan of Trump, but a woman coming out years after something like that happened is BS. There was video of him where he said he just grabbed them by the private part without asking. There was audio of him saying he grabbed them.
I think that was with a reporter.
He did say that. He did say that. But the first part, part kind of rocky.
The thing of it is that a woman can choose to come out years later to say that she was raped, right? Look at what happened with Bill Cosby. Now, I will be one of the first to say that I am not sure if all of the persons who came forward accusing Bill Cosby were genuine, right? Don't ask me what it is actually the basis of that. It's just that I don't know. I just have a feeling, and feeling ain't enough, but it's just what it is, right? And I see nothing wrong with a woman because one of the things too is when you are violated as a woman, it would be difficult for you to even say something at the time, right? And I can understand not wanting to say anything because it's the shame of thinking that you may have done something to encourage it or just not wanting to have to go further with it because you're trying to bury the situation or put the situation behind you. So you don't even want to bring charges, etc. Now, the thing of it with the Me Too movement, what you saw happening is that one person came out, as that happened with Puff Daddy, with PDD. Cassie came forward, and after Cassie came forward, you had other women, or you have other women who are coming out now. Whether or not the basis for what the other persons are saying is actually factual, we don't know. But at least it's being highlighted. And Puff Daddy would have his day in court if they actually go to court.
All right, caller, you're live.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Do you guys ever? Good morning. Do you guys ever heard about the Central Park 5?
Yes, we spoke very briefly on that this morning. Yes.
So you guys say you never find no evidence of him being racist. Don't you think that was racist of him?
We never said that. We said that I personally said I have not seen any evidence of him raping anybody or conducting sexual assault.
Raping, but not being racist though.
Yes,
but
I never
you have
said
evidence
that.
of him being racist?
Well, I have seen clips of him making certain comments and his role in the Central 5 where he was advocating that they're arrested. I did see that.
No, he called for the death penalty, not to be arrested. The death penalty.
Oh yes, it was the death penalty. Thanks. Yes.
All right. So
and don't you think he was racist for that? He called them animals.
Based on what I saw, I don't think him calling them animals was based on race. I think him calling them animals was based on they being sexual, quote unquote, being perceived as sexual. It's not predators, but yeah, they accusations.
Well, at the same time when it happened in 1989. Around that time, between 1989 and 1990, there were 4 cases, and he didn't come on and say nothing about that. There was a mentally retarded white girl was raped by some white guy. He didn't say nothing about that. A Jamaican lady was a student of St. John's University in Queens. She was raped or allegedly raped by some football players from St. John's University in Queens. And he didn't say nothing about that.
But okay, so
right?
You're quoting yes in what?
There are 4 different cases. There was a black lady that was raped on a rooftop and thrown off the roof. He didn't say nothing about that.
Yeah,
okay, wait. One second.
That's why.
Go ahead. At what period of time did you want for him to make a comment in terms of when he was president or at that time in the 80s?
At that time, 1989, 1990.
But remember, at that time, he was a businessman. Right? He was a businessman, and business people tend to stay away from a lot of these sensitive issues because they're not sure who it is they may lose business from.
But he was a businessman too when he made the comments about the Central Park in 1989. He was a businessman then. And he made comments.
Okay. All right. I withdraw what I said.
Yeah, that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is we know how these things work in that persons try to become bandwagonists in terms of how serious the situation, how much news the situation is garnering. Now, the Central 5 situation was international news. And then at certain points in history, if you check the data and the statistics or even some reports on it, persons did not regard crimes happening in the black community as serious as something that would happen in the white community. So you would see more coverage coming from an assault taking place or a robbery or whatever it is happening to a white person than that happening to a black person. And then we also need to consider that video where he called for them to get the death penalty. He was approached by a reporter and asked the question. He didn't hold a press conference and say it. He was approached in a lobby by a reporter and asked the question.
Listen what happened. He took a front page ad in the New York Times with thousands and thousands of dollars for the death penalty.
After that. And why is it that he did that?
I can't remember if it's
the same reason.
After.
I'm telling you, it's after. It's the same reason why Not until Shafika Maloney made the comments that she made was when these businesses, careers, the Prime Minister held a press conference, all these things happening. When she has been talking about it for over a year, it's whenever things get media attention that certain people tend to ride the wave of it. And it's just fact.
But the guys were exonerated in courts, and he still maintained that he think they're guilty. He didn't apologize or nothing.
They were exonerated. What was it? 10?
They exonerated in court.
How many years later?
It's all 5 of them.
It took a while.
How many years later?
10 years later, I believe. It might have been 10 years later.
Was it?
And they sued and got millions of dollars.
Yes, I do know that they are.
Just became an elected politician a couple weeks ago. One of the guys in Harlem. He ran for politics and won a seat in the constituency in Harlem. Right.
Unfortunately, my internet ain't even working fast enough for me to double check whether or not he maintained the fact that he think that they're guilty.
They believe they're guilty. He never apologized. I think they were suing him or they're in the process of suing him. I don't know how far they're in that, but they were talking they was going to sue him for that, for those comments.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
May catch you back later.
Yeah. Thanks for your contribution, Carla. Now it's it's very interesting to hear these debates.
I was trying.
I trying to find okay, so 2029 we have the New York Times saying Trump will not apologize for calling the death penalty over the Central 5. He said on Tuesday, he was president at the time, he said he will not apologize for his harsh comments in 1989 about the Central Park 5, the 5 Black and Latino men who as teenagers were wrongfully convicted of brutal rape of a jogger in New York City. He said that the ads never explicitly call for the death penalty for the 5 defendants. I need to see the ad. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. That's what the ad said.
They were in prison between 5 and 13 years.
Yep.
Okay.
So at the time, he was an up-and-coming real estate developer.
Okay.
The ads attracted widespread attention. You see the point that I was making? So whether or not he's racist or not, we'll have to really do an in-depth analysis of that. But I do believe that whenever there is something popular happening, people tend to jump on board to try to get as much publicity for themselves as possible. Whether which side they really stand on, we won't know. But there are people who strongly believe that there are 2 genders. But they won't come out and say that there are 2 genders because in certain countries, they could lose ads, they could lose sponsorships, they could lose all these things. But you would see people hopping on the bandwagon.
Or even politicians who, especially in the US, who feel the need to endorse LGBTQ. You know, I mean, for some of them who actually hold a Christian position or had a Christian upbringing, I think many times because they do not want to offend anybody or to make it seem as if they are accepting of all, whether or not in their heart of hearts they believe in it, they are going to say that they are accepting and welcoming, especially when they're trying to advance their careers politically or professionally in other areas, you know. So
hey,
welcome to you.
Joshua has a question there. I don't want to read it.
What?
Why
are you? I can't.
Are you going to forgive a man?
Forgiving a rich. All right, was it time?
That's when it's going to be comments and thing first. Answers. I agree that in cases here, we're not addressing. There are cases here that we're not addressing. And this is what I mean by the selective outrage. There are a lot of things happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that persons would look over unless, let's say, a group of people start having an outrage towards it. Then you see other groups coming in and then it becomes a big issue. And then you start hearing
But you know, Ari, I always remember it takes a very strong person to be a voice that's against the opinion. And I would always remember there was one time, boy, we had this heated conversation in the office about what was it? Anicia's position in the Vote No campaign for what was that thing again?
I don't even remember.
Well, anyhow. But the point that I'm making is that I was the only person in the office who had a difference of opinion. And I tell you, they wore me down. right? Not to say that what I was saying wasn't making sense, or it was a case where I was just deliberately being devil's advocate. The point is that I generally see things from different sides.
See me?
And when it is that you have an opinion and you put forward that opinion, you have to know who you're putting forward your opinion with. Because I always remember that situation because they wore me down. Like literally wore me down to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this again. I know what debates I'm going to have with people. I'm not doing this again. But
the thing is, for me, and I know we're running out of time. For me, I don't believe that debates are meant to have a person who is right and a person who is wrong. I believe that debates are meant to have fun. We see the call. We cannot take the call. We're already over time, but we'll be back at 9:20 for the open forum. Yeah, there shouldn't be. You shouldn't be debating to be right or wrong. You should be debating to learn from other people and see other people's perspective and see how you can find common ground. I'll say it louder at 9:20, and then I'll say it in this voice. But seriously, I think that's a major problem where people are fighting to be right or wrong. Well, people are fighting to be right, and people listen to react and not listen to understand. Well, they hear to react and not listen to understand.
And another 2 points to that: raising your voice doesn't mean that you have the stronger argument. I'm just letting you know. Society, that is. And what was the other point I was going to make? I can't remember the other point. We're going to I'll remember it. I'll come back 9:20 for it. With it.
All right. So we have coming up our ECCB currency exchange rates and our lottery results, followed by nostalgia.